just going to play the first lullaby. Play it with whichever fingerings you want, but I do not do the ones that are in the book. And I do think it's very lovely to change the order of book 4 and to consider these lullabies to be real pieces in their own right and not a sort of extra, which is not helped by how it's presented in the book. Anyway, let's go. So we're going to play this tempo. Not joined up between the violins and the cellos. The cellos play it as a proper piece. It's called Berceuse, which I guess is German for lullaby. I don't know that actually. And yes, and they have different bowing, and at the end they have these extra notes, which makes it a much nicer way to finish the piece, because otherwise you get these 2 long bars of rests before you finish, which is kind of weird. So it's a great piece for vibrato. I'm hoping that your children are doing vibrato by book 4. It may not be great, but they will have had that skill developed during book 3, shifting during book 2. It's a really brilliant piece to practice changing your contact point on. And it's really, you know, after the struggles of the Bach Gavotte, and then Bach Bourrée, it's just really easy for them to play, which is very nice. So I will either start my students on sights 1 and then a lullaby, or a lullaby and then sights 1, mostly dependent upon where in the year we are. For example, if it's the summer holidays, sights 1 is great for them to get into that. Or if we've had no time for me to show them anything, sights 1 is quite difficult to start without any help on the boxes, previews. So therefore I might give them lullaby, and then the next week I would start the previews for sights 1. And also depending on how, you know, some of them are dead keen to do sights 1 and don't really care about lullabies, and others are like, oh my god, it's so hard, in which case a lullaby is perfect because it's not so hard. So use it as an opportunity to practice contact point changes.
Would you do one contact point throughout, or would you do a changing?
No, I would change it. So for example, I would put an echo in the bar 3 and practice during that up bow slur, moving away from the bridge, coming back in a little bit for mezzo forte in bar 5, and then moving away at the end of bar 6 so that it's really pianissimo even till the end in bar 7 and 8. The shifting you will see when you look at the picture of this piece of music that I do. And the bow control, you know, they've never done a slow movement yet. Book 5, they're going to have their first slow movement. Book 4, they've got some slow sections within the pieces that they're doing, but nothing really slow. So this is a really good time for them to develop that bow control that you need for the slow movements in book 5.
if you had to break down the bow control skills, what would they be for really slow bow?
So being able to measure how much bow you're using for each note, thinking about your tone triangle, making sure that you've got the right sort of ratio so that you have good sound on a slow bow. Making sure that, for example, when you play that you don't just leave the last two notes right till the tip and kind of lose them, or that like make massive bows there, so that then so that there's a small bows in the upper half, and then you save the bow and slow the bow so that you do get that diminuendo even though you're coming in towards the heel. Wow, can hear my daughter. So the boxes I've got now are contact point changes, vibrato, shifting, bow control, and I guess I would put just very quiet playing. Our students have practiced playing really quietly, hardly at all up to here. We spend 3 books basically developing a massive sound. Well, 4 books because the concerto book 4 is all about developing a huge sound, and then book 5 you suddenly expect them to be able to play really quietly and sensitively as well as loudly and sort of show-offly. And these 2 lullabies are part of them previewing that.
There isn't any dynamic. There aren't any dynamics.
Yeah, I have put in what I would teach in here, so we'll put a picture on the chat. Let's just go back to the very beginning of the book. Devon, would you mind opening the door?
Yes, of course.
Connor is playing so loudly that he hasn't heard it. So on page 4 you see tonalisation. Interestingly, this is the first book. I think book 3, has someone got book 3?
Yeah.
I think book 3 has a philosophy sort of talk in the beginning of it, doesn't it? Does it have a message from the...
Yeah, it's got this. Laws governing progress.
Yeah. So this is the first book that has no sort of words in the beginning about check what you're doing basically. I think that's kind of interesting, and obviously it doesn't mean that you're finished on parent education by book 4, but that it becomes more down to you what you're going to sort of feed them. So we have tonalisation again in G major and then minor, and then C major and minor. Like I said before, I don't really do very much of the C, but I do teach it in first position, second position, third position, and also in fourth position eventually. Book 4 is definitely a place where you want to start doing scales if you haven't already. I mean, you will have done some scales, but to do more on scales. So the scales and arpeggios on the bottom of page 4 I think are very useful, and it probably is a good moment to get a scales book. And then this is the tune that we were talking about having been introduced to in book 2, and here it's being used to practice fourth position.
What scales book do you?
I think Improve Your Scales is very good. I have some students who want to do grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and then I have others who just drop in at about grade 3 during book 3.
Do you do ABRSM or do you?
Those are they are ABRSM based books.
Paul Harrison.
Paul Harris.
Harris?
Yeah. But I mean, G major 3 octaves is a grade 5 scale. You need to go, and so that's the kind of level that you're thinking of for book 4. That during that they should be able to do that. And then to finish off very quickly, on page 6 you've got perpetual motion in second position, third position, fourth position. The finger pattern's always that yellow with a hot pink 3, where 3 and 4 are best friends. And the trill exercises are very useful, don't ignore them. And the kids like them.
So basically do everything.
Yeah.
Nothing you wouldn't do there.
I don't do loads of the shifting exercise on page 5. I do a lot of tonalisation on one finger in different positions, mucking about with reviews in different positions, and just kind of shifting gains. So this is sort of less of what I do. Thank you.
Do you want to go on the latch? Or not yet?
Yes, please. But I think it's helpful. You know, as a sort of check that you haven't missed it out, basically.
Which pieces do you review most with the shifting, perpetual motion?
So for staying in position, perpetual motion, long go, turn up roadie, twinkles, even like, you know, if you've got a kid who's keen to do it, even minuets and kind of some of the book 2 pieces. In terms of practicing shifting within a piece, we kind of do the same perpetual motion, like on one string, for example, shifting up and down using long ago.
What was on one string long ago?
Yeah,
That
like
would be your starting note.
A 1 2 2 1 2 3 2 2. Or then starting it in second position and practicing going up. We'll do a whole session on shifting.
And perpetual motion, also what's the starting note?
So it depends how good they are at shifting. To start off with, open A, and then going 4 4 3 3 4 3 2 2, using a harmonic at the top. So you're just practicing first and third and a harmonic. But then later we just do games, like for instance in group, where you know I clap and they have to shift wherever they are. So they're just basically kind of going up and down, and then eventually maybe using just one finger. Right. Good. Okay. Thank you all very much. So after half term, we will discuss Beyond the Music Lesson, Christine Goodnow. Keep learning your pieces, and read the Practice Hub section on Suzuki Hub website, please.
The what, sorry?
Practice Help on the Suzuki Hub website is under the Parent Hub, Student Hub, I can't quite remember.